Hello and welcome back to Arbitrary 20. In this video, we're going to be talking about the most banned spells in D&D 5e and if we think you should ban them.
And public enemy number 1 is Silvery Barbs. It's a first level spell. It's a reaction. Essentially, when an enemy succeeds on a roll, you can use your reaction to make them re-roll, use a lower number, and then you get to give someone advantage. I mean, it's pretty good. I would say it's pretty good. It makes up the holy trinity of reaction first level spells for sure.
Yep. I think the main points for banning it is the canceling criticals. If a couple players in your party have the spell, your DM is probably never critting again.
Yeah, legitimately
and
never
then
critting. Yeah.
re-rolling saving throws. Some people think it's too strong when you cast a 5th level spell that has a saving throw, and then you can effectively give them disadvantage on it, but it also could stack with disadvantage. So if they already had disadvantage, you would make them essentially roll 3 and take the lowest. And they're all, a lot of cases, they're pretty much guaranteed to fail at that point.
Yeah. On average, it's like a -5 with disadvantage, -4. So
it's like 3.8.
Yeah. So it's like a counter shield. You're like lower your save, but I feel like it hits the hardest with the crits, like you said, but also the save or suck saving throws are pretty painful. Like if you don't save as a DM, then you're just kind of screwed. It's a little painful to have that happen to you.
Yeah, especially the ones that are like complete lockdowns.
Yeah.
Hypnotic pattern, the hold spells, stuff like that.
Yeah. When you get your hold person goes off and then you get crit, it just feels really bad. But I mean, overall, I think it is pretty fun to use as a player, though.
Yeah, and it is only about a -4, so I really don't think it's game breaking. And canceling a crit is one thing, but if you're getting multi-attacked by 3 different creatures, the shield spell is still always going to be better. This isn't just so good you can only spam this.
Yeah. It makes less of a difference if the action economy is even. So if there are multiple enemies, then it starts to make as much of a difference because you only have one reaction. And once you burn it, it's gone. So if someone else crits, you're kind of gone. You've already used a first level spell. I mean, it did achieve its purpose, but it's less impactful the more people there are or the more things you have to use it against for sure.
Yeah.
I would say against a big boss, it is pretty strong. It could be pretty strong.
Yeah, against a single big one enemy, yeah.
And maybe that is the reason people want to ban it, but it still takes resources too, I feel like is the big thing. Like burning first level slots, at a certain point, they're not going to have Silvery Barbs.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's really worth burning 2nd or definitely not 3rd.
Yeah, 3rd level spell slots, no way. But 2nd. It might
Which was actually one of the modifications we saw of it online. Somebody was trying to make it a 3rd level spell, which I don't know. I don't think that's
I could argue for 2nd, mainly because I like more higher level spells being reactions. I like the variety of that, so if people wanted to release more of those, I think that'd be cool. Like a 3rd level reaction spell that isn't counterspell would be kind of cool, in my opinion.
Yeah. I wonder how many there are, if any, above 5th. I don't know if there are any.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, could be an interesting homebrew. But yeah, do we want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, we can move on.
The second one being Tasha's Mind Whip. It's an intelligence save. You take a little bit of psychic damage, and then if you fail, you can't take a reaction, and you only get one of move, action, or bonus action. You only get one of the 3. And yeah, that's kind of the main thing there is against, specifically against one big enemy, they kind of get most of their action economy taken away from them.
Yeah. And I would say that would be the major complaint from everyone, right? Is if your boss can only move or attack.
There's not really much more to it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of...
I mean, I guess against someone with multi-attack, they could still attack 3 times though, right?
Yeah, because multi-attack is one
Just
action.
part of the one action.
But if you cast this and then make sure everybody's out of melee, which most creatures in
That's true, actually.
the game are best in melee.
I would think it'd be funny if someone cast this on like a flying dragon and they were just stuck midair, like they literally couldn't do anything.
Yeah, that can happen. I don't actually think at least the young dragons, I'm not sure once you get to adult, they have legendary saves.
Yeah.
So,
You're like, do you want to move towards me?
They
Or you
just
want to
can't.
press?
Yeah. Well, and then if they don't get their breath back, even then,
Yeah, they're just like, okay, I guess I'm gonna fly. It's interesting. I mean, I could see why, from a DM's perspective, it would be painful to deal with sometimes.
I guess it depends on what everything you're running.
Yeah.
How many single. I don't know. Maybe just add more, other enemies in the fight, or give things legendary saves. I don't know.
Yeah, legendary saves make your life way better in general, but
I don't think
at a lower
this
level, they're not always possible.
Yeah, I don't think this one's too hard to play around as a DM.
It removes your reaction though, right?
Yeah, it cuts your reaction, then on your turn you only get one of the 3.
So it is painful if your enemy is
So
purely martial based.
Half of the things you can do.
Yeah. Well, it takes away opportunity attack too, so your players can run away.
Well, no, it gives you 1 of 4 things you could use to do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty painful. However, I still think you could easily balance around it.
Yeah.
In certain situations.
To the next one.
Just be smarter.
Yeah. The next one, which is Goodberry. I think we all know what this one does at this point. You make 10 berries that feed you for an entire day and give you 1 hit point.
Yep.
I think we were talking about it beforehand. I think the biggest modification to this one is the no food.
Yeah.
To fix it in survival games.
Mm-hmm. If you're in a campaign where like food and cooking and like hunting and survival matter, this kind of just destroys it. That aspect of it, feeding nourishment for a whole day.
Yeah.
But 1 HP, well, people complain about, but I don't feel like in that situation is an issue.
I don't think it gets banned as much for that, yeah. It is a little strong with the life domain cleric dip.
Yeah.
Making it 4 hit points per berry.
Yeah, that gets to be a major issue. I do think kind of what, quote unquote, made this a little more accessible was Strixhaven, right? Because it was banned to the Druid and Ranger class originally.
That's true, yeah. And you can't really get it with magic unless you if you're able to use Strixhaven, this is a lot easier to get.
Strixhaven makes this like everyone can have good berries starting out, and then you're like, why does everyone have 50 good berries?
And then there's like the I think it's the Mark of Hospitality halfling also wants it to their expanded spell list. So it is more accessible now, so it's probably a bit more prevalent.
I think before, if it's like in solely a druid's hands, obviously it's still going to be really good, but it's not going to be as good as every person in your party having it for sure.
Yeah, if everybody's juggling good berries, it get a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I think a potential modification would be a less than 24 hours on the time limit. It's a little extreme.
That would pretty much just keep you from casting it the day before, which is like the most powerful use to get the resource-free healing from it. But even then, I don't know. I feel like it just pretty much makes it so you're full health going into each combat. So then, I don't know. The combats can be harder.
You can make harder combats, which is cool. Because then your players aren't at 10 HP every single combat going into it. Like you can go into a hard combat each time.
Yeah.
But maybe a DM might feel punished for not having a combat like one day and not using their resources. So then they come into it with a full arsenal of good berries. They might feel slightly punished by that.
Well, one interesting way to sort of combat that, I would think, is attacking them at night, because if you use all of your, or just before, whenever you long rest, you can just attack them after using all of it.
Yes, they have no spell slots. It's a possibility, and your players will love them. Your players will love it, for sure.
Totally not saying this right next to the DM when I do that.
Look, any night combats that I had planned, I now have to wait on, because now it just seems like I'm going to do it because of that. Congratulations, you delayed any night combats I had planned.
Well, I will also now save 1 spell slot eternally.
Yep.
Bet.
I see issues with Goodberry, for sure. Like, I get people's perspective on Goodberry, but
I think the only real reason to modify or ban is survival campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Truly, you can have more fun enemies if your players are more healthy,
Yeah.
and they'll still feel pressured, like they're going to die, or there's something to lose and stuff like that, even if they're not always full HP, or they are always full HP going into combat.
On to the next one.
Do you want to lump these together?
Yeah, we can lump the next two together. They are similar. We have conjure animals and conjure woodland beings. You cast them, and the most common option is 8 beasts or fae of challenge rating 1/4. Well, I think we'll get the elephant out of the way.
Yeah.
Talking about cheese beforehand. If you're able to choose these, there's a specific interaction with conjure woodland beings that is completely ridiculous. That I think most people know, but you can cast conjure woodland beings. I don't think it's on the sample creatures here, but you can get pixies. And if you're choosing this randomly and you're at the 1/4, you have a 1 in 3 chance to get them. Even 1/4 and lower, you have a 1 in 6 chance to get them. So it's still pretty decent. But all the pixies all have the polymorph spell and can turn your entire party into giant apes.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is
it does
slightly cheesy.
Yeah, very much so. It does have the one flaw that the pixies, I believe, have 1 hit point.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty easy to break that concentration, but if they have a way to get total cover of some kind,
there's a lot of potential.
It's a free win.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there, and I think specifically with woodland beings, that might have been a slight oversight.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah,
for sure. But otherwise,
I think these. I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think these spells are totally fine if they are like chosen randomly.
Mm-hmm.
Which it does take a little bit of effort. 5e Tools actually has a way to like filter and then randomly decide. That's what I've been doing the couple times I've cast this in one of our games.
I think the main issue with this is the rules are unclear whether you choose or your DM chooses.
Yeah.
It's been ruled
I think it has been
different ways.
confirmed that rules as intended, the DM is supposed to choose, but like it's often just easier and faster and just more pleasant in the game if the player just chooses. Or I think randomly decided is the good in between, though, in my opinion.
I think that makes the spell even more fun because you don't know what you're like. Literally reaching into a hat, like what am I gonna pull out? It could be a whole thing of cows or velociraptors, and they both have their situations. I won't lie, but they're more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're able to choose, it is also much stronger too, as opposed to randomly.
Yeah.
Because if you can choose the elk or the deep growthe, which both have like the charge ability, or just velociraptors, which are good in general, getting 8, or if you upcast it, 16 or even 32 multi-attack creatures, it just gets ridiculous.
Rules as intended with the DM picking, I feel like could be a little problematic sometimes too, because like if you happen to piss your DM off that day, they could kind of just mess with you.
They could just give you 16 frogs.
Yeah.
And then with a fifth level spell slot.
Yeah.
And then you just cry. Like,
and I don't think that's fun for anyone.
Yeah.
To be fair,
I think if you choose the 8 of 1/4, randomly deciding amongst all 1/4 beasts is the most fair and interesting way to decide it.
And, you know, even you're going to have 8 1/4 or 1/8 or 1/4 enemies, right? It's a lot of action economy lost, but they're very squishy. A lot of the times they're very squishy.
If you're going against enemies with AoE, it's honestly not that good of a spell.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this dragon's breath just happens to kill everything. Oh well, like, you know.
Yeah. At that point, you are kind of better off going with one of the Tasha summon spells, like Summon Fae, Beast, Shadow Spawn, or whatever. Yeah.
Which I feel like in the future, they're probably always going to move forward with.
Like those. Yeah. They're a lot more table friendly. Yeah.
You scale more rather than summoning 16 or 8 of whatever, you know. It's a little more friendly for everyone.
Pretty wild that you get with the it's with the 9th level slot you can get the 32 if you cast this with a 9th. And then
it's so funny.
Conjure woodland beings can get to 3 times, so 24 with an 8th level spell slot.
Yeah. You turn a whole village into giant apes or something, you know? Like, it just doesn't matter.
I don't remember which. Yeah, it's challenge rating 1. So you can a funny interaction is you can do the conjure woodland beings, and if you're able to choose, you can choose dryads, and then those dryads can cast Goodberry and heal your party. And I think they have some other
Full
spells
circle.
that they have access to as well. I think I can pull
I didn't
it
know
up
that.
here.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can summon dryads with this. Yeah, they have 3 times a day they can cast Goodberry. They get Pass Without Trace once per day. You're summoning 2 of them. Well, Conjure Woodland Beings only lasts an hour, so you would get 1 Pass Without Trace.
Or if you split
And then they also have 3 times per day Entangle.
That's cool though. I feel like that's fair.
It's pretty strong.
That's
but,
strong, but I feel like that's really cool.
Well, compared to the Pixies, it's the fair option.
Of course,
Yeah.
100%, yeah. And, you know, there's a big difference between some control spells, a little bit of healing, and polymorph. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
And potentially 8 giant apes if you had that big of a party. Yeah.
Or they could do it on an enemy, too.
Yeah, you
know,
could have
it's-
8 of them target an enemy
Yeah.
at that point. I mean, I don't know how good their save DC is, but depending on that enemy's saving throw, even with legendary resistances, that might make it through.
Yeah, and then you can do all sorts of fun and unpleasant stuff to this massive enemy that is now a turtle. You can just
Yep.
throw it away. But that out of those bunch has to be my favorite spells.
Conjure animals and
Yeah.
conjure woodland beings. There's
Primarily because
also
they're from the drone spell list, but no other reasons.
And then there's the funny thing, I believe it was Pack Tactics made a short recently. You can, with the new shared falling damage rule, when they, if you fall on top of somebody, each takes half damage. You can put 8 baboons, whatever, the max range in the air, and they all
Just
fall.
drop them on it, yeah.
Which, that is
I-
the cheesiest of cheese.
I've seen the meteor swarm of cows where you just set it above them and you just have them drop
Yeah,
down.
why cast Meteor
Yeah.
Swarm when you can cast Conjure Animals at night level?
Cow swarm. So, I think that's a fun spell, though, overall.
Yeah, I like them. I think there's correct ways to do them.
It's funny that out of all the spells, I think we agree on that being, like, we agree that that one needs to be modified in a slight way, but it makes it just better overall for everyone. Like, that is like
Yeah.
a proper modification there with the rules intended and stuff like that. So,
And we did have one last sort of honorable mention. It's not often banned, but often, interpreted differently pretty much at every table. Suggestion.
yeah, I feel like it's this spell is so hit and miss because it is very dependent on how your DM wants to rule it. And that's cool, but it leaves it open in the air for anything. However they want to rule it. Like, how are they accomplishing their goal, and like what ends this spell? Because you could say do push-ups with your mouth closed until your arms fall off, you know? Like, you can't do a hostile action, but 8 hours of something is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and the sentence that's the real killer is the suggestion must be worded in such a manner as to make the course of action sound reasonable.
And what is reasonable? Truly.
All 6 players, all 6 people at the table might decide something different. For them.
Yeah. I think if you asked a group of 10 people, they would all come to a different conclusion with a specific wording.
Yeah.
So, you know. And
I feel like at some tables I would often find myself just not taking the spell because
Yeah.
of possible conflict. But yeah.
it depends on your DM, I feel like. Like, how you feel like they're going to rule it, and just kind of go for it if you want to go for it. But maybe avoid it.
But I mean, if your DM does often rule in favor of you with things
Yeah.
like this, mass suggestion is
Oh, yeah.
probably the best 6th level spell possible.
By far, yeah.
Because that one lasts 24 hours with no concentration.
Yeah.
Well, this one is just a concentration of 8 hours.
I do have, a soft spot in my heart for utility, auto combat spells like this. So I enjoyed having access to them.
Though it is often ruled differently, it's cool because it does have uses in and out of combat.
But if someone says for your enemy to surrender, they just drop their weapon and they automatically surrendered. So you just pick it right back up and keep attacking them. You know?
Because you didn't say for how long.
That's what I'm
right?
saying.
Yeah.
There's so much room for interpretation.
Yeah,
like if you don't define a sentence or like a duration, like who knows? It could be for 3 seconds or 6, whatever, you know. So
Yeah.
that's why it's probably the honorable mention here of not necessarily modified, but not run as everyone would assume they would be run, because everyone has a different opinion on it.
Yep. I think that's all we got, though, right? Yeah.
So to wrap everything up, what do you feel like? Should these spells be banned? What do you feel? How do you feel about these spells?
I don't think any of them should be banned. I think occasional modification where necessary might be okay, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think modification to make both you as a DM or you as a player and the DM together have the most fun together with the spell is probably proper. If someone really hates it, then maybe look into modifying it. But as a DM, or even as a player, I guess, you can always work around these spells.
yeah, and I mean, in my opinion, in terms of encounter building, sort of restriction like that, like with the Tasha's Mind Whip or the Silvery Barbs, I feel like the restriction sort of makes the creativity happen there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you have to make more interesting encounters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it pushes you farther, but you know, as a player, you get to see more cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool, and that's what I enjoy
Strong
most.
players isn't a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. So overall,
No, you should ban none of
don't
these.
ban them. Just do better.
All right, I think that's all we have for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.